Mr. Beeline here with your science lesson for today. Today we are talking about chemical reactions. Alright, so a chemical reaction is a reaction in when one or more substances are changed into something new, into a new substance. Whenever we have a reaction, there's always going to be stuff that we start with and stuff that we finish with, right? Whenever one or more substances changes into something new, the terms for these is reactants for what we start with, and products, which is what we finish with. Now, the interesting thing in chemical reactions is we actually have this rule, or this law, called the law of conservation of mass. And the law of conservation of mass states that the mass of your reactants equals the mass of your product. So even though things are changing, turning from one substance into another, the stuff is all still there. You can't lose anything. Okay, so while, again, water may turn into gas or into ice, the same amount of mass of water molecules is still going to be there, right? So your starting amount is always going to be the same as your end amount. Now, in order to represent a chemical reaction, we're going to use a chemical equation. I know they sound kind of similar, but chemical equations are used to represent reactions. And a chemical equation uses two things. The first being chemical formulas, which we reviewed last class on how to represent molecules in their chemical formula, and a bunch of varying symbols. Now, there's quite a list of these symbols, but they tend to be things like plus or an arrow. It may indicate that heat is needed. There is maybe about 10 to 12 different symbols, and they're in the PowerPoint, so you could just have a look at them all there. I don't quite have enough space to write them all down here, but there are a whole bunch. So using chemical formulas and symbols, we can describe a reaction that's happening. So what this ends up looking like is KCl plus CO2 can turn into K2O plus CCl4 . Okay, so what you just saw me do there was put some extra numbers on the front, right? So those are our coefficients. And just like in our chemical formulas, our coefficients tell us how many of those molecules are there. Now, how did I come up with those numbers, though? And that is through something called balancing equations. It's a really big topic, and it's going to need a whole nother video to go through. But that is exactly what balancing a chemical equation would look like. But I'll break it down in another video on how to do each step so that it's really easy to follow. All right, that's it for today. Thank you so much. Take care.